What up, YouTube? It's Kurt here. So today we're going to talk about why you shouldn't necessarily test your decks online. All right, so online testing, yes, it can provide a function in which you get to know your deck and you get to know the rulings. Because honestly, online, the rulings that they have on Dueling Nexus and Dawn of a New Era, they tend to be really, really good. So whatever the machine does, the ruling is probably correct. There have been some exceptions in the past, but they are very far and few between. Whereas opposed to if you use like Dueling Book like that, people get things wrong all the time and they have to call judges, things like that. So that's why online can be good in that aspect. But the thing is, the problem with testing decks online is that the players that you run into online as opposed to what you'll run into in real life, if you live at least in the United States, they will be far, far worse than what you face in real life. And that is just one thing that experience has really taught me. Now, you may think that perhaps your locals, sometimes I think locals vary. My personal locals, there are very good players there who go to regional events, and they do pretty well, and we learn a lot from each other. That locals is fairly competitive. There's a mixed bag of really good players and not as good players. So I'm really fortunate to go in person and test that in real life and have good players that will teach me things. That is the key. You need people that will actually teach you about the metagame and things like that. But it's still kind of small. It's only 15 people. So there's definitely a skill gap. I think if you go to locals, you'll find at least one player that's gone to regionals and been experienced in that aspect. Because if you try out your deck online and then try taking your deck to a competitive, like, regional event, I think most regionals are at least semi-competitive. I get the feeling with deck profiles that I've seen in other regionals, I feel like the one I've been going to locally in the Northeast is fairly competitive, but maybe I'm close to New York, things like that. That could be part of the reason. So even at a regional level, maybe it varies slightly, but it will be far more competitive than the players that you will face online. There will just be such a skill gap there. So that's one reason why testing decks only online is not really viable. It's just there, and most players that you run into will tell you that. So if you can, find your nearest local shop and try to find the best Yu-Gi-Oh players there. A shop that runs local tournaments every week. There'll probably be at least one good person there that you can real live test your decks with, and we'll play multiple decks and things like that. And I'll get to my second major point here. The way you interact with players in real life will be far different than the way you interact with people online. What I'm saying is that online you have these nice little swirly lights that show you when an effect is going to activate. Like if you have end phase effects, a lot of time the machine will do it for you. It's hard to remember these things in real life. It's something that you need to actually practice with your physical cards, going from one phase to another in order to actually get good at. And a lot of players in real life don't actually understand a lot of rulings, and so you're actually going to have to read cards and call them out on bad rulings and call judges. So there's that aspect, and reading cards isn't as easy in person as it is online because you can just roll the mouse over. You actually have to be kind of meticulous about that and know what to look for on the cards. That's one thing that only comes with practice in real life. So if you think you're confident online with your ability to play online, you might be in for a rude awakening when you go into an actual like regional qualifier event, because the skill gap and the interaction of a real-life event, it will be far different than what it is online. Those are the two big key points that you want to take away. Now, I did run into someone online who said, people online say things all the time, but he said he qualified in Australia. In Australia, a regional event, he qualified with Sky Strike or Cyber Dragons. And I looked at his profile, and I was just like, how? There were so many contradictory cards in it. But if you live in other countries, well, I do think the United States and parts of Europe are really, really competitive. They're probably less competitive in, other regions partially due to the fact of poverty and things like that, or card availability. Those are really key things to keep in mind. I don't want to say it's because the players don't know how to play. A lot of times it's multiple reasons why players aren't able to come out. All right, so hopefully this video is helpful for you guys. Again, if you want, my advice to you is if you go to regional qualifiers or you want to play competitively, make sure you test with people in real life as well as online. Online is good, but it's not your bread and butter. Real life will teach you the most relevant knowledge. So that's all I got today, guys. If you have a suggestion for a video, leave it in the comments section. Any comments, I'll try to respond to them, but I appreciate it, guys. Peace.